All right, let's talk about Fat Joe. We got to talk about Fat Joe. So him and Lord Jamar been going at it lately, and they've been firing shots at each other verbally. Now, Fat Joe made some criticisms about FBA. Now, what is FBA? FBA is Foundational Black American. What is a Foundational Black American? That's anyone who can trace their lineage back to the American slavery system. So, why is this popular, or why is this important? Lately in hip hop, there's been a conversation about who created hip hop culturally, who created it. Now, Lord Jamar, I give him credit because he's brought up this conversation. Something I haven't really thought about, but Lord Jamar's position, and he started this conversation about a year ago, saying that foundational Black Americans created hip hop. The culture was not influenced by Jamaican culture, Trinidadian, Barbados, Cuban, Puerto Rican. It was essentially an American thing, and those other cultures did not create hip hop. They came and joined in and assimilated into hip hop. So it's made a lot of people offended. And let me play what he had to say, and then I'll talk about it.
These rumors were made by radical black racists. Let's just say that. Okay? It's a group of these guys that don't want to hear Jamaican, don't want to hear Guyanese, they don't want to hear a black guy that ain't down with them. Right. Right? So their job is to criticize anybody who don't look like them or who ain't black American. Who are these guys? You want me to say their name? We're going to give them too much clout. I mean, the F.B.A, Foundational Black Authority, whoever the fuck these brokers is. I'm just keeping it a buck.
Now, personally, for myself, I grew up in Illinois, greater Chicago area. Now, my parents came from Ghana. They came from Ghana in the 70s. I grew up here. I was born in Ohio. I grew up in Illinois. I lived an African American experience my whole life. I haven't been to Ghana that much, and I identify far more as a Black American. However, here's the thing. Those of us who have parents who came from another country, maybe we're first generation, right? We can trace ourselves to a home country. Even if we don't go there a lot, we still have a home country. There are Black people in this country who don't know their actual home country. They can't trace their lineage, obviously, because of slavery. Now, if they did a 23andMe, maybe they could, trace their roots to Nigeria or Ghana or the Congo or wherever. But the point is that hip hop in and of itself, I never questioned this, but this is something that Lord Jamar has brought up recently. And I think that a lot of people are feeling a way about it because I think for a long time, we kind of drew a narrative, or those who tell the narration of hip hop, people like KRS-One, one of my favorite rappers ever, maybe my favorite rapper ever. There's the story has been told, and it's kind of included everybody. And I think Lord Jamar he's kind of the first one kind of bringing up this conversation. I think it's an interesting one, because did these other cultures, those of us who, a lot of people in hip hop were first generation, you know what I'm saying, where their parents were from, some of the countries I mentioned. And the question is, was hip hop influenced by Jamaican culture and all these other countries that people talk about, or was it just an American thing that people who were, maybe first generation, and their parents were from Puerto Rico or wherever, did we just assimilate into it? I tend to say, what, I wasn't there. My coming of age in hip hop was more late 80s through the 90s. So I'm a little too young to be down with the foundation of it. So, but if you were back in 71, 72, and you lived here and your parents were first generation, were you bringing their culture into hip hop, or did you assimilate into something? Did you assimilate into American culture? So I think it's an interesting conversation. Let me play some of what Lord Jamar had to say about Fat Joe. I don't think it's a racist thing, but I think that, again, I think people are feeling away because we've been living with a certain narrative for a long time. And when Lord Jamar first started saying this about a year ago, I was like, oh, I never even thought about it like that.
They can't name one element of hip hop they created. Exactly. We still ask, because I asked KRS, I asked Fat Joe, I asked Lazy Legs, Buster, a bunch of them. I asked to come to a debate. Sit down and let's talk about like civilized people. Bring your assets, bring what you have that strengthens your argument. I'm going to bring the people that I have that say they were there and can tell you about the origins of hip hop. And yes, some people may have been Puerto Rican. Some people may have had Jamaican background or something like that. But guess what? They were all doing and acting like foundational Black American youth.
That's a fact though. And man, you gotta give it up, man. I gotta say, like, there's always a difference, right? When you, especially if you have parents who are from a foreign country, and there's always a difference, with how they relate. They didn't grow up here, so there's a little bit more of a distance, not just the generational distance between culture and music and dress, but there's even a further distance when your parents are from another country, because they may not even necessarily understand the music or have been growing up with the music that was used for the base of hip hop. And the base and the foundational music of hip hop, of course, surely came from people like James Brown, American soul music. So, again, I kind of agree with Lord Jamar. I really don't see where people are offended. I would say, yeah, it's just Black American youth created it, and that's fine. Because see, Black American youth are people like myself who have parents who are from other countries. All Lord Jamar is saying is that our home country cultures did not influence hip hop. And I agree. I don't see any evidence of it either. I was a kid in the 80s, and he's right, man. Like, all the dress and the slang, all that stuff is Black American youth.
They weren't acting Jamaican. They weren't acting Puerto Rican when it came to interacting in hip hop circles. Even before the culture had a name, the culture was still there, and it was being influenced by foundational Black American youth using foundational Black American music as its base. We wasn't using any Puerto Rican slang, and not just Puerto Rican, anything. It's not about hating anything that doesn't look like you. These are non-arguments that people try to create to try to say that this is what people are upset about. No, we're upset about the fact that you can't just admit that the thing that you love, hip hop, that has brought you fame and fortune, was created by a people that you subconsciously look down upon.
Now that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think the youth who have contributed and enjoyed hip hop were looking down on foundational Black Americans. Maybe their parents or grandparents could have. We definitely have that. That's definitely true. I believe that, and I've seen it. However, I do think that the narrative of hip hop, again, my man KRS-One, one of my favorite, if not my favorite rappers, he's a big part of the narration of the creation of hip hop. I think he's told the story about the creation of hip hop more. He's talked about it more and spread the word of the creation of hip hop more than any other artist in hip hop, as far as I know. But I think that it's always been included. I think it makes the story a little more interesting when you say, you know what, Kool Herc, Kool Herc was Jamaican. I don't know if Kool Herc was born in New York, but it doesn't matter. I think people are missing the point of what Lord Jamar is saying. I think people are saying, if you're not foundationally Black American, you didn't create hip hop. I think the point is that it's not the human being. He's saying that it's the culture. The culture of hip hop is American, and American, Black American only. That's what I think he's saying that people are feeling weird about. But the narration or the conversation has always been, well, you know what? Because the people who created it their lineage does trace to other countries besides just America, right? Because their lineage traces to places like Jamaica and Puerto Rico and things like that. The people who were there early on, the conversation has been that, these different cultures actually melted together to create hip hop. I think it's a more interesting story. Again, I wasn't there, but even basing on my own childhood, I agree. I really didn't see like influences from other foreign cultures to make hip hop. I think that's a nice story to tell and it may sound more interesting, but I didn't see that. I agree. I think Lord Jamar is right. I think everybody assimilated into black American slang and talk and dress and way of doing music. And that, and to add to what Lord Jamar is saying, when you go around the world, if you go to Africa or you go to, South America or you go to Europe, wherever, the slang and the conversation and the way people do stuff, the influence of hip hop culture you can see is there. And what you can see is that influence is American. It's black American. It's okay to let black American people have something that's exclusively theirs. And I think hip hop is exclusively black American. Other groups of people and countries have what they have. You know what I'm saying? Reggae, no Americans will ever say, well, reggae is something that is, we helped create it because we were there. You know what I'm saying? Like that reggae is Jamaican. You know, different Latino music, salsa, and different other types of music, and it comes from certain Latino countries, and you ain't gonna tell them that you helped create it. It's theirs. It's nothing wrong with it. You could participate in it, you could love it, you could add to things to help it push it along, but it's theirs. And I don't think it's divisive per se, but I do think that it's important historically to tell the story how it actually is. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Crucial Convo.